So we are reading from Spiritual Anatomy on the 10th chakra. So the starting at the 10th chakra, sameness develops and it continues as you go onward in this region. So the idea of a creator and creation starts to lose its hold on you in this chakra because you don't see that separation as vividly anymore. Your gaze shifts higher and you are looking at the horizon towards the origins of the first mind. So, here, what is this first mind? We need to really pay some attention to, right? So, think of it like this. Today, we are tuned and trained in some way to think that we are separated from God. God is and we are trying to seek or reach God. I mean, so the religions say pray to the God, and spirituality says seek God. But seeking what? See, I mean, there is a very interesting story from the Indian scriptures. It says the 10th man is missing. So here there are supposedly like low IQ people, 10 people of a disciple, of a saint. So they cross the river and they want to check if anyone is missed in the river while crossing because the river was flowing. It's a rainy season and the flow was like crazy. So the first guy counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And he says, oh man, the 10th person is missing. So he's counting all the others, excluding himself. Right? So each one takes a turn and counts, and they say the 10th person is missing. Right? So now they are wondering which 10th person and where did he go? Right? So then, they'll be like sad and frustrated, and they cannot find the 10th person. So a traveler passing by asks them, what is the problem? So he says, we are 10 people and one person is missing. And then this guy counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 10 people, right? No, you guys, no one is missing. You're all 10. So then they're all happy. Oh, no, no one has missed. But how do you find the 10th person? Then they wonder, like, why, how come when we were counting, the 10th person is missing? He says, you are the 10th person, right? So similarly, what we are seeking is already there. But then why can't we feel it, seek it? I mean, we are seeking, but why can't we feel it? You see the point there? So the point here is that 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 which you are seeking already there. There is no need to seek. It's always have been there with you. All your prayers are by answered by that which is within you, that higher self. It's like when you sow a seed and seed becomes a plant and plant becomes a tree, where did the seed go? The essence of the seed is in every cell of the tree. Similarly, if we believe that the creation happened through that higher essence, what we call God, the godly essence must be there within us, in every cell of us, correct? So, what we are seeking all along outside is within us. So when this first mind formed, here the concept of the first mind is that it 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 found its identity. I am. Then this I-ness, the moment it felt I, then it felt separated from the God. That's why then it developed fear. What if I lose this I-ness? Right? And from then on, what we call the impressions started forming. The more impressions, the more we got separated. It's a feeling of separation, but we are not really separated. Right? So that's why this, when we move towards the origins of the first mind, where we go to that state, the ego is very refined. Now, today's ego is many layers of identities have formed. So when we go towards this first identity, what we call the ego gets refined. The meaning of ego getting refined means all these layers of identities are dissolving. And slowly we move towards this godly region. And then we find the 10th person. Okay. So that's how this works. Okay. So it feels like a journey, but there is no journey. It's like walking on the treadmill for eternally. Right? It feels like a journey, but you're in the same place. Spirituality is also like that. That's why we kind of talk about as if it's a journey going from first point to second and third and 10th. But it is basically as your identities are dissolving, your spectrum of consciousness moving across the dimensions. It's expanding across the dimensions. So that's how the journey is. So we'll by if I am at the second point, will reading about 10th point make sense or not? It's just an informational thing, but as you go there, then you'll remember, oh, this is what is happening to me, which I read it in spiritual anatomy. You'll get the sense of it when you get there. But when we are not there, it is just information only. I mean, how is it going to help me? It enhances your idea. It gives you uh, an imagination. It's like when people are learning music, correct? They're asked to listen to the top musicians. Why? Because you get an idea. Just because you are listening to a top musician doesn't mean you're going to play now like a top musician. But as you practice, you get there. But you get a sense of the expansion you can go in the music. That is how this information should be read. If someone is not listening to that music, suppose if I'm learning classical music, if I'm not listening to the classical music, I don't know how all other musicians, top musicians, have kind of presenting it. I can learn the notes, I can keep practicing the notes, but it doesn't enhance my idea to what level I can take this music to. Okay. So nowadays it has become a fashion, like the guy who is learning the tunes and music. In the first week, they're already publishing their YouTube videos. And we are expected to praise them. Right? So that's how it's going to be if you don't have that higher vision. If you have the higher vision, then you know where you stand. Then you won't be posting your learning videos on YouTube. Okay. So that's how it's going to be. Okay. All right. So the escaping the trap of bliss, the crown chakra. Let's read about this. So any questions thus far, comments? And always please interrupt me if you have something to say. This is not a monologue. The more dialogues we have, the more we can learn from each other. All right. So escaping the trap of bliss. the crown chakra. So now, here you can see the 10th point, and then the crown chakra is known as Sahasra Dal Kamal. Sahasra means thousand, Dal means petals. It's a thousand petal lotus. So each chakra, in a traditional sense, they assign the number of lotus leaves, and depending on the number of the the leaves it has, it determines the power and the state or the energy at the chakra, right? So towards the end of the journey at the 10th chakra, one comes face to face with SDK or crown chakra or Sahasradala Kamal, or in short, it is also known as Sahasrara, located between the 10th and the 11th chakras. So the SDK is the chakra of bliss. Most of the yogis, because if I have to draw this Sahasradal Kamal, a straight line from Mooladhara, let me get the pen. Okay. See, at the bottom of the spinal cord, this is how the spinal cord goes, right? This one is the Kundalini, most famous chakra, Kundalini. And then at the top is the Sahasrara, SDK. So the main, what we call the nadi, Sushumna nadi, goes all the way from the Kundalini to the Sahasrara, and the energy is descending down. So all the yogis thought they could, if they reach the Sahasrara, which is the highest potential, I should not be using the word energy or power, it is the highest potential. A potential is not power. Okay. Even power comes from the potential. So that's why if we say power, then there is another higher power to overcome it. That's why, when we talk about God, we talk about Satan. Reason we created an anti God of the same equal potential is that's a human tendency, right? The human tendency is always how can I create something anti? Anything you find a positive thing, you want to find a negative thing. We always, toggle between the positive and the negative. But anyways, coming back to the topic, this energy or potential is descending. Lack of the better word, the prana is descending from the higher to the lower. So all the yogis thought they can take it upwards all the way to the SDK to achieve the higher potential. That's why heartfulness is the only system which discovered all these points. We journeyed through our frontal points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going 6, 7, 8, and 9, and then we are traversing. This is if you put the head in this direction, right? This is our head. And then 10. And on the top is the SDK. And there is 11. And there is also a Brahmarandra between 11 and 12. When we get to the topic, we'll talk about Brahmarandra. And the 13th is the highest. This is the central region, according to our system, right? So, but people, the past saints, until heartfulness came into the picture, everyone thought SDK is the topmost, the highest. So they always worked against the flow of the energy. This is basically, you have to go put enormous energy to traverse against the flow. Imagine from the where the ocean is merging, or a big river is merging into the ocean. You want to take all the waters from this spot to where the origin of the lake, origin of the river. It's how much energy you require to do that. Enormous energy. So in the process, you could lose many things. That's why the heartfulness created a frontal journey, a different path. The energy is descending down like this, and then you channel it the other way. And then you traverse from the frontal points where there is no resistance. So the journey becomes easy, effortless, and appealing. And you can really enjoy the journey instead of going through all the side effects of going against the flow. Correct? But so any potential,
Brother, could you repeat the same thing again?
which one?
The last few minutes of the journey.
Right. So here you see you're going against the flow. Correct? It's very apparent. The energy is descending and you're trying to move upwards against that flow. Here we are going through the frontal point. We are not going upwards in the spinal cord. This is the spinal cord. So this is where the Kundalini is. And we started with our first point near the heart. We started the journey from the heart. We go through the frontal side, and then we go to the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and 10th. Right? So the journey becomes easier. It's very natural channel. There is no resistance. You're just moving upwards on a different path. So you don't have to exert so much energy. Go ahead, Yogesh.
And so you use Dayal Shakti to traverse, or is this Dayal Shakti itself?
So the look at it this way, right? The positive energy for the spiritual growth is always the Dayal Shakti. On our Tuesday session, I spoke about this Dayal Shakti and Kal Shakti. But again, we'll take some opportunity to talk about it. How Kal Shakti helps in cleaning and how Dayal Shakti helps you in spiritual progress. Okay. So both have some, major utilization, and we are always using it. Even though we are giving any names, all our meditation, everything. So the point where I started is what you are seeking is always with you. That's why, if you pay attention, closer attention to what I said last week, what is unfolding throughout our spiritual journey is only our first meditation. Because we are starting our journey with the last state. That's why we are meditating on the divine essence, and that is the last state. And that is also the first state. The beginning and end are the same. That's why, if you observe carefully how we practice this heartfulness, and as we are practicing it, what we meditated on our first meditation is unfolding throughout our life because it's already there. There is nothing new you are seeking. There is nothing new you are creating. Everything is already there. The transmission is already there. The godly essence is already there. All this existence is already there.
So if the energy is flowing through
Prana, yeah.
prana, why do we take the zigzag path from the frontal point? Can it not be straight?
Each state gives you it opens up a different consciousness spectrum. So to open that spectrum, this path makes more sense. Whereas in the other path, it's not an expansion of consciousness, it's sheer mental force you are using. So there it's mental force, here it's consciousness. Is the two different approaches.
Is there a direction for pranahuti also, transmission?
There is no direction for pranahuti. Pranahuti, though, even though we say It is invoked from the master into the disciple. But where is the master? That godly essence is within you only. So the transmission is also evoked from within you only. There's nothing, no. So it is for us to conceptually understand the only way we can follow any spectrum is to our dimension only. So we have to, that's why all language is for ignorant only. The enlightened language is only silence. Because the moment you turn into a language, it becomes short of what you are explaining. Okay. If I say Aham Brahmasmi, I am the higher essence. The moment you say I am, the higher essence, the idea of higher essence is lost. So you're kind of making it true, right? So that's why any spoken word brings it down. Any language brings it down. But how then, what is our other way of expressing it? The only other way of expressing it is to go into meditation and experience it yourself. So the journey of spirituality is you experience it for yourself. Then all this literature, master, guide, trainers, they're all the tools for you to use for you to get to that experience. But ultimately, it is you who are going to experience it. It is you who are going to enlighten. It is you are going to learn through your own practice. That's why it's a practice-based system. So what all the time we are seeking, praying to, it's already there. Very, what should I say, consoling idea. So let's read this quickly and then we can get into meditation. We have 3 minutes to go. So towards the end of the journey, the 10th chakra, one comes face to face with the SDK, located between the 10th and the 11th chakras. We already read that. So yet, if you recall, at various parts of the journey, the chakras can cast curvatures of consciousness. So there are labyrinths in which the consciousness gets trapped and the journey stalls. So the curvature that appears in various forms at the second chakra, it was peace. At the seventh chakra, it was power and ecstasy. And between the 10th and 11th, it is the SDK that can trap you with bliss. So even bliss is a trap. We are say Brahmanandam, Atmanandam. All these words we use Anandam for bliss. Anandam is there, it is very difficult to translate it into an English language. The closest you can come to is bliss. The very loose translation is ultimate happiness. But here, this bliss or happiness has no ecstasy in it. But that bliss, once you attain, you want to be there. So, this curvature, think of it curvature like a limbo. You are stuck in a limbo. What is that movie? Inception. Those of you watched Inception, you understand what is getting stuck in a limbo. You get stuck in that higher dimension and you don't want to get out of it. You don't want to see further. And this can happen at any point of the journey. It's not that it only happens at Sahasradalakamal. So when you set into the curvature, that's when you become what is called an avadhuta. We'll talk about that concept in much later, but I'll quickly explain you what the curvature looks like and then we can get into meditation. So from the beginning of the journey is always like this. Okay. So you start from here and then you are going upwards. You curve a little bit. Okay, this is allowed. But then if you go all the way like this only, then you are stuck in this state. You cannot go up. So every time we reach this state, A caliber teacher will push us upwards with his own effort to the next level. And then again, you start your journey until this point, and then you need to get pushed to this. But sometimes you're stuck in the ecstasy of that state so much, the bliss so much of this, whatever that state is offering you, you say there is nothing further to it. And you can willfully, consciously, you can stop yourself. And that's what is called the curvature is setting. It is you who are doing it to yourself because you think that is the ultimate. Okay?
How does one know whether they are in that limbo?
Very difficult. Very difficult. But some, see, that's why this wisdom of the heart always tells you you are in limbo. So we have to listen to that. Otherwise, it's very difficult. Okay. All right. I'll stop here for any quick comments and questions.
Is Sahasradhar Kamal same as Brahman or?
Sahasradhar Kamal is the highest human potential in the seers have seen at that time until heartfulness came into the picture.
But is Brahman not the same?
Brahman is infinite.
Oh.
So there is no point you can say I've reached the Brahman. Because you're continuously floating in that journey. So that's why the journey is never ending. This spiritual journey, especially, is never ending because we are moving into that infinite states. Okay. All right. I'll stop recording.